G'day fellow creatures of the internet, it's the most must-see and subscribed online ambassador of Black Marsh, Bruzo Dragonius. And you know what? I'm openly a furry. I know that some people in the comment section go on and say, Bruzo, we already know that you are a furry, so what is your point? To be honest with you, I didn't start out as openly a furry. Like most furries out there, like you that is just watching this. And yes, I know for sure that all of you know that I'm a furry openly, because I wouldn't end up making this type of content, like this furry related content, whether it's on TikTok and YouTube. In fact, you're watching me as an Argonian, as a talking lizard right now, hence a furry. But to be honest with you, I'm not always this open to become a furry when I started out being in fandom. You see, like many views that are there, I don't know if any of you are furry started out as being open, because there's people that are out there, you know, being a furry isn't really that much well liked because they're not really mainstreamed. The furry fandom in itself can have a bad reputation thanks to media. So, to be honest with you, if you're a secret furry, or if you're there in the closet, if you're watching this without your parents or your folks or your friends knowing, well, I have no intention to blame you whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's an amazing thing. Being a furry is an amazing thing. And I do get that people don't want to, they think that you tend to be a freak of being a furry. You know, us furries are weird, eh? And pretty much since the years of high school, give or take, let's say going back to the noughties, the 2000s, when I ended up being in high school, I myself became a furry in this year, even before I knew what a furry is. And I didn't seem to recognize myself as a furry. Just some guy in his teens that is just more into mascot costumes. Somewhere around the 90s, you got, you know, some of the superhero cartoons and that, whether it's, you know, anthropomorphic animals. You know, I grew up with furry cartoons like the Ninja Turtles, like the Street Sharks, like Extreme Dinosaurs. There's some superhero shows like that where there's anthropomorphic animals. Even though that, yes, cartoons are basically one of the reasons why I do like becoming a furry, and I did watch Pokemon and Digimon, you know, especially if Digimon made me into a furry because of, you know, talking animals. And I remember that I have this, I think it's pretty much date back in my primary school years and that as well, probably around the 90s because of those shows. Not only that, but I had close friends in primary school that, I won't say that there are furries, but there's us kids back in the day, we do like dressing up. Whether it be superheroes, whether it be other kind of characters, Power Rangers, and all that kind of stuff. We used to play pretend. And it all started back in Book Week in the 90s, where my friend ended up dressing up as a dog. Kind of a bit of a homemade costume and all that kind of stuff. Very impressive in that, I must admit. That, alongside with the cartoons that I do watch in the 90s, to some of the tokusatsus that I used to watch. What I mean by mainly Power Rangers. And I also remember that I did watching Big Bad Beetleborgs. Back then they seemed really cool, even though that they were cheesy back then. You know, it's all in the Hames Saban era, you know, with people fighting in costumes and all that kind of stuff. Hence, that's tokusatsu. So I did sort of got exposed to the tokusatsu art before I know what it is, right? And there's some things of thinking of me saying, well, I can pretty much see myself as another animal. You know, had an admiration for, you know, people transforming into monsters or other animals and all that kind of stuff. You know, I've been so much of a big fan of sports as well. even though that in my hometown, people of my hometown in Newcastle, we are absolutely passionate about rugby league and that. When it comes to rugby league, there's other mascots as well. So I think that being into these mascot costumes and whether, people dressing up as different animals or something like that, and I end up wanting to become a furry because of those outfits, because I'm very, how can I say, very fascinated by these costumes, and all that kind of stuff. And then fast forward into the 2000s and all that kind of stuff. I'm so fascinated with these costumes, with the way that, if I can't see the human eyes, I don't have any idea how they can see out of those things because they're all full body and all that kind of stuff. Now, remember, I didn't know what a furry is back in the time. I know that they are just people dressing up as animal characters, even though that's not always being a furry is all about. Fast forward to high school and all that kind of stuff. I think back in 2002 to about 2008, probably most notably in my HSC years. So that's, for those that aren't familiar, here in Australia, HSC is year 11 to year 12. Back in America, you would have called it as grades. Grade 11 and grade 12. Basically, I'm not quite sure if it's quite up to college or what you call college, but at high school, at least. And this sort of fascination sort of is growing on me mentally. I remember every lunch, recess and all that kind of stuff, even though that sometimes I hang out with my non-furry friends, probably around lunchtime, joking around, hang around with each other, even though that I did end up getting bullied throughout my years of high school because of my autism. Secretly, it all starts with me becoming a secret furry, closet if you will. Now, back then, all my childhood I've been living in house commission, or what we know as, here in Australia, households. And I was a household because my family, my parents, including my dad, we had only one sort of income. We're a single income family. My dad, at the time, worked as a boiler maker, building tanks, in other words. We didn't seem to have access to any computer at all, even though back at high school, when I was all my years of school, we did not have access to YouTube. As a matter of fact, YouTube was blocked. We can't access it through the school computers for some reason. In fact, it wasn't allowed. But like I said, we can look up on Google. We can look up on Wikipedia. And around that time, I didn't want anyone to know that I'm looking at these kind of stuff, with people in animal costumes or different sorts of animal costumes and all that kind of stuff. Because, to be honest with you, I'm in this sort of state of mind. That looking up these type of things, to me, that's kind of like primary school, the oldest, where people do have the appreciation of others, fully grown adults dressing up as animals and that, head to toe. To be honest with you, I didn't see furries as a bit of a kink. What people, some of the normies, I should say, see it as. I kind of see it as childish. At that time, I thought that I was too old to be a furry or to look up people in animal costumes. I didn't know what fursuits actually are. All I know back in the time is mascot costume. What I used to do when I was at high school back in the time is every break if I weren't hanging out with my normie friends and all that kind of stuff, or if I wanted to have a bit of a break on it, if I, wanted to have some time to myself, I go up to the library and look up Google images of these amazing costumes. These amazing animal costumes that are called fursuit. I was really fascinated by them. I was absolutely amazed with looking at these pictures, going into different sites and all that kind of stuff with these characters, those animal characters that isn't even mainstream. I don't know if I even looked up these type of pictures, this type of art in DeviantArt and all that kind of stuff. And the thing about it is that every time when someone was approaching me from behind and all that kind of stuff, even when they're minding their own business, at that time we had those PCs and that. I'm not quite sure if PCs do have the off on and off button on the monitors and all that kind of stuff. When people go across me, like even if I do sense them beyond me or have that feeling, I normally just turn the monitor off, and that's just about it. And that is just my fix, really. It was. Then, the time that we got our first computer, I think that it was 18 or 19. I'm not quite sure if if I graduated from school. I'm not quite sure. And I started up looking up videos of other of these amazing costumes. I started watching furry YouTube, like furry content and all that kind of stuff. But the thing about it is that it was behind my parents' back. I remember at this one stage when I stayed up till 12 o'clock, past my own bedtime, just to wait for my parents to go to sleep themselves, so I can go down those stairs. At the time, we was living a 2-story household townhouse. I'm not quite sure if it's a townhouse, but anyway, along the cul-de-sac. And I was just looking up some random furry videos, whether it's people in costumes and all that kind of stuff. And then I started watching the furry YouTube as well. But it used to be behind my parents' back. Nowadays, I have some sort of an admiration for it, to a point that, as we speak, I became very open to all my friends and family and all that kind of stuff. Even when I started on YouTube and that, that I couldn't do a face reveal, as in reveal my human self, because I already did that in the past. I made videos as a human being. And we just got like a webcam and all that kind of stuff. So, in conclusion, there's some ideas of what you could do to hide your furry secrets and all that kind of stuff, in case that you don't want your folks to know. Like I said, there are so many reasons why people isn't that much keen on the furry fandom and don't want to be involved in it, or don't want to have anyone else that they know be involved in it. The other reason why I was secretive about being a furry back in high school is because, as is, I was teased and bullied at school for my autism, because I'm autistic, and becoming a furry and that, and being open with it at the time, would make me a much easier target. Actually, a much bigger target for bullies to have at me. Now it's 2021. I'm 31 years old. And ever since that I made these videos and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I'm a furry. And not to mention that I don't have a dedicated Facebook account for my furry content. I just put everything in one thing because I lost all purpose at it now. Not to mention that I don't see any bother, just having two separate Facebook accounts because, that's how awkward that I am. And nowadays, I think that my parents, including my mum, are very much accepting of me being a furry and very supportive and all that kind of stuff. Because at this moment, she was watching my Fursuit Fridays now on Facebook, on my personal Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. The point of this video that I'm just trying to tell you is that I'm just going to give you ideas on how you can actually hide the furry you from your parents or your friends that you'd normally feed would have goes at you or ridicule you or be mean to you because of your furriness. As a matter of fact, there's some of the advice that I am going to give you. Even though that there's, just for some, if you want some more advice onto whether that you want to, how you can hide them from your friends and that. What I did, I usually hide them from my friends at school, on my schooling life. So anyway, that wraps it up. Comment down below some stuff that you want to do. Preferably tell me, are you a closet furry as well, or are you in this stage that you feel very much open and just tell the whole world and shout it from the rooftops that you are a furry? Also, if you do like this video, make sure that you press the thumbs up button, as well as please consider subscribing to this channel, even if you haven't already, by pressing on the subscribe button. Stab the notification so you are one of the first to know, or turn on notifications on. The usual stuff that I put on is on the description below, including ways to give me money and also my social medias account. If you want to friend me on BSN, my gamer tag is Bruzo 21. Even though I say that every single one of my videos. As always, thank you so much for watching this to the end. And especially thank you a lot if you're one of those people that have just subscribed to my channel, or aka my new subscribers. I just want you to know that all of you that are watching this video are amazing, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You're all awesome. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching this. And until next time, this is the most must-see online ambassador of Black Marsh, Bruzo Dragonius. I appreciate each and every one of you. You're all awesome. And as always, may He guide you all. Bye for now.